It's 5:30, everyone. Welcome to the HWMA board meeting and welcome to the Eureka City Council chambers. We'll go ahead and get started with a roll call. Yes. Sure. Or we'll wait just a moment. And if anyone's watching, this is our first time reconvening after 3 years away, so forgive in advance any technical difficulties that may be encountered.
Madam Chair, I need to step out. I've got an emergency at home I have to take care of. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Chair, we should be good to go. We're good to go, Leslie. Yeah, thank you.
We will go ahead then with the call to order.
Your mic's not on, Leslie.
Thanks, Eric. We'll get this. Director Matthews.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here.
Director Katie.
Here.
Director Castellano's here. Director Madrone just stepped out, but we'll be right back. And Director Wilson is absent, but I know that he had a special meeting and will be here pretty soon. We do still have quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started and move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the HWMA board and will be enacted upon by one motion unless a specific request for review is made by a board member or a member of the public. The consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless pulled for discussion. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion? No? Okay. Would any members of the public wish to make comment on any item on the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment.
I move approval of the consent calendar as delivered.
I'll second.
Okay, we have Director Jones making the motion and Director Matthews seconding it. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Director Matthews. Aye. Director Jones.
Yes.
Director Katie.
Aye.
Director Castellano votes yes. Director Madrone and Director Wilson absent for the time being. And then we will continue on to oral and written communications. This time is provided for people to address the board or to submit written communications concerning matters not on this agenda. Board members may respond to statements, but any request that requires board action will be referred to staff for review. Reasonable time limits may be imposed on both the total amount of time allocated for this item and on the time permitted to each individual speaker. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. Do any members of the public wish to make comment at this time? Are there any members on Zoom that wish to make comment? Oh, the sound is not coming through on Zoom. Are there any members of the public on Zoom who wish to make comment if you're hearing us okay? Okay. Seeing none, we will close public comment or close oral and written communications. Move on to item number 4, which is authorizing executive director to execute consent to assign an agreement between HWMA and Mad River Hardwoods for green waste drop-off and processing services to Steve Morris Logging Incorporated. And I will hand that over to you.
Thank you, Chair Castellano. So in late January of this year, Mad River Hardwoods notified HWMA of a potential sale. Can you hear that? Is that good?
We can hear you, Eric.
Okay. So in late January of this year, Mad River Hardwoods notified HWMA of a potential sale of their property at West End Road, along with the operations related to the green waste processing to Steve Morris Logging. HWMA staff met with both parties in February to discuss the current contract, operations, and the pathway for potential assignment. Both parties agreed that a contingency of this sale would be the assignment of the current HWMA contract. At this meeting, Steve Morris also indicated to staff that they intended to continue to provide the green waste and processing services as detailed in the current Mad River Hardwoods agreement. Staff does not anticipate any additional costs related to the drop-off or the processing of this material, but because these activities will take place at an alternate location, staff does anticipate a minimal increase in costs related to the transportation of this material to the new processing site. Based off those, staff's recommendation is that the board authorize the executive director to execute consent to assign of agreement between HWMA and Mad River Hardwoods for green waste drop-off and processing services to Steve Morris Logging, Inc. Additionally, I would add pending review by general counsel.
Thank you for that presentation, Director Keller-Heckman. Are there any questions by members of the board? Director Madrone.
Oh, not really a question, and maybe it's off topic, but I'm wondering when we're going to be able to have green waste for the rest of the county. Do we have it at HWMA right now, green waste, other than at the West Green facility?
So as of right now, there are several different locations that everyone around the county can drop green waste off at. The main hub for Eureka, Arcata, the greater Humboldt Bay area is HWMA, so at the Hawthorne Street transfer station.
Okay.
That material is loaded into containers there, and then it's sent out to Mad River Hardwoods, West Green Company,
Okay.
and it's processed there. Additionally, there are locations, Humboldt Sanitation accepts green waste. Obviously, West Green at a one time accepted drop-off of this material. I understand that just recently that option has closed for certain entities, and that's something we want to make sure that we work with Steve Morris should this be assigned to ensure that residents of everywhere can continue to drop off material.
Residents of everywhere, because right now it's just Arcata residents, correct?
That is correct.
So in this new agreement, it would expand. That's something we're going to be asking for.
This will not be a new agreement. It's an assignment of the old agreement, and pursuant to that agreement, yes, everyone, member agencies included, would be able to drop off material at the Steve Morris site.
So is that an advantage to individuals to take it directly there rather than going to Humboldt Sanitation or to our facility? Does it still cost at either place?
The only advantage would be your location. So if you are in a location that's
So
closer
transportation efficiency.
to City of Eureka, it's more cost efficient to drive to City of Eureka, drop it off there, and have us load it.
So no matter where you drop it, whether it would be at this previous site that the Greens have managed that Steve Morris would take over, or you take it to HWMA, or you take it to Humboldt Sanitation, the cost for drop-off is the same.
I cannot speak to Humboldt Sanitation
Okay.
because they are not included in this contract. So
Okay.
they operate their own transfer station and the drop-off, and they have their own contracts in place for that processing.
Okay.
But for HWMA, yes. Yeah,
And then everything ends up at West Greens for processing, or Steve
that is
Morris?
correct. Yep.
It all gets ground there and turned into wonderful products or whatever they've been doing and others.
Yep.
So that would continue.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to know. I will note that with these windstorms and followed by snowstorms, we have a massive amount of green debris all over our road systems, all over our private properties. And it's going to be a major cleanup for the next 4 or 5 months for everybody. And now we got another one on the doorstep tonight with some more 50 to 70 mile an hour winds. So I expect there'll be more debris coming down. and I hope everybody stays safe. But thank you for the answers, Eric. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and just to clarify, should this contract be assigned, the location will change at where our materials process. So it will no longer be processed at West Green, West End Road location. It would be processed at Steve Morris's yard in Glendale.
And Glendale.
Yeah, so that's why in the staff report, you'll notice that staff anticipates a potential slight increase due to the extra mileage
Yeah.
that will need to be driven for that.
Okay. Thank you for the updates. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Madrone. Any other questions from members of the board? Welcome, Director Wilson. I do see that the Greens and Steve Morris Logging are here in chambers. Would you all like to say anything before we open it up to general public comment? You're not obligated to.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We just appreciate you guys working with us through all these years, and especially this transition, so we can start our retirement life.
Well, we're really happy that you have that opportunity, and are definitely thankful to Steve Morris Logging for taking the helm there. Are there any members of the public that wish to make comment on this item? Okay, any members on Zoom wishing to make comment?
Chair, I'm seeing none.
Okay, seeing that, we'll close public comment on this item and bring it back to the board for comments or a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion to authorize Executive Director to execute consent to a sign of agreement between HWMA and Mad River Hardwoods for green waste drop-off and processing service to Steve Morris Logging Incorporated.
And I believe Director Keller-Heckman suggested adding pending review by council to that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Director Wilson.
What do you want to know?
Vote.
Yes.
Okay, Director Katie.
I'm sorry, I didn't get what you asked.
Oh, sorry, we're just taking the roll call vote on this motion.
Oh, you're doing a roll call vote?
Yeah. Sorry, just because I don't know if it's set up to vote anyway. Yeah.
Getting used to be back.
Yeah, and then just these microphones, there's a push button there to speak into the microphone. Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Madrone,
Yes.
Director Jones,
Yes.
and Castellano also votes yes. Motion passes unanimously. And we will move on to our next item.
I'm sorry, can I get the names of the directors who made the motion and seconded?
This is Director Matthews and Director Madrone.
Thank you.
Okay. And which is item number 6, approval of resolution 2023-10, resolution of the Humboldt Waste Management Authority authorizing the authority to enter into regional grant agreements with the California Department of Resources, Recycling and Recovery for Organics Grant Program Grant Org 7. And I'll turn that back over to you, Director Keller-Heckman.
Thank you, Chair. So late last month, CalRecycle announced funding available for the Organics Grant Program. This resolution will allow HMA to apply for Cycle 7 in that grant program. Grant funding will be granted to HWMA as a regional agency. Key timelines are outlined in the staff report, but it is anticipated that grants will be awarded in October of this year, with the grant term ending all the way out to 2026. If awarded, the funds will be used for the facility retrofits and improvements related to the organics processing facility. So additionally, staff recommends that the board approve Resolution 2023-10, Resolution of the Humboldt Waste Management Authority, authorizing the authority to enter into regional grant agreements with the California Department of Resources, Recycling, and Recovery for Grant Program, Grant ORG 7, and authorize Executive Director or designee to execute grant agreements upon review and approval of HWMA General Counsel.
Thank you. Are there any members of the board who have questions?
I have a question. Is this going to help us in implementing SB 1383?
Yes, it is. SB 1383 is a direct driver of not only the organics grant program, but HWMA's desire to apply on as a regional agency for this grant. So the money will be used for the potential money will be used for the necessary repairs to the floor, potentially doors, and also a potential purchase of a pre-processing unit to ensure that food waste that comes in, the trash and material that cannot be processed as organics or compost is pulled out. This grant will allow us to purchase all of those with grant funding if awarded.
Thank you.
So these are items that we already had money budgeted and set aside for. So this is wonderful, right?
Technically, we did not have money budgeted aside. The board did earmark capital improvement funds that were to be used for the purchase of the 966 loader, as mentioned in the consent calendar staff report. So that original capital improvement funding was to go to the loader. In lieu of a ride-out purchase, we chose to go with a lease option, as was approved by the board earlier tonight, to allow us to use that liquid funding to purchase the floor, doors, stuff like that. If we are awarded this grant, we will not have to use those capital improvement funds for these activities.
Is there anything else that you want to use that for?
Other capital improvements, yes. Yeah, it'll go back into the fund. We will have a completely redone and new capital improvement plan coming with next fiscal year's budget. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Madrone.
Yeah, so is the city of Eureka also applying for a grant in this same vein? And I'm a little confused. Are there two different grant requests going on, or where are we at on that?
So I can't speak to the city of Eureka, but I know they are not applying for this grant. So HWMA is this resolution is allowing us to apply as a regional agency, which means we are applying on behalf of all of our member agencies. So we are applying for this grant cycle for every member agency that we have. They are, in theory, a part of this grant application as well. The city of Eureka, Cower Cycle has a myriad of grants currently available for different types of SB 1383 related activities. So it's very likely that City of Eureka could be applying for something in that vein, but they are not specifically applying for this grant, no.
Not for this grant, but I had received some communication from Tom Matson that there was a grant that the city of Eureka was applying for, and they would be using Evan Engber, I believe, or Evan, I forget his last name, and that there was a concern that we at HWMA would be available, that staff would be available to provide information to the city of Eureka and Evan to be able to compete for that grant. So I'm a little confused, I guess, as to what that is.
Yeah, that is the grant that I'm discussing right now. I think there's a little bit lost in translation. The city of Eureka is not applying for that grant.
Yeah, it always made sense that we'd be applying for all the entities.
We are applying for the grant. What happened was the city of Eureka and member agencies offered to pay and Edgar and Associates to develop this grant in concert with HWMA staff. Gotcha. So the member agencies are funding his work. I believe the contract is under the umbrella of the city of Eureka, but the city of Eureka itself is not applying for the grant. HWMA is.
Well, that's really awesome of our partner agencies to be stepping up, because, as I think, if the public doesn't know, we're on a thin budget. Wonderful that maybe this capital improvement stuff will be able to come back, because that's not suddenly a big windfall for the Waste Management Authority. We've got a lot of responsibilities and tasks that will absolutely go to that are most important to be used for. But so thank you, Eureka, Arcata, and all the member agencies for agreeing to help pay Evan's costs of developing the grant in concert with you, I'm assuming. And so we'll be able to provide them with whatever information they need to be timely and accurate and complete with that application. Is that sound accurate?
That's correct. Yeah, we are currently undertaking in a collaborative effort with Edgar and Associates this grant. So we are providing pretty much all the necessary information, the TPR amendment, stuff like the transfer processing report amendment, things like that. We are working in hand with Edgar and Associates and the LEA as well to make sure that we can get our application in on time.
Well, that is fantastic, because without this assistance, we might have been challenged to be able to do this work. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, obviously, we spoke a little bit about it at the last board meeting. This originally stemmed from an executive advisory committee that was called by the member agencies, and I cannot thank them enough for not only coming up with a solution to this problem, but being able to help and being able to put financial backing behind it. Absolutely.
Fantastic, and we know that Evan is going to do a great job for us all. Thank you, Eric, for your time to help manage that. So.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, I will open up to members of the public. Do any members of the public wish to make comment on this item? Any members on Zoom? Okay, seeing that, we will close public comment on this item. Yeah, and I just really appreciate the collaborative nature of moving this forward. And from what I've heard, the process is going really well, so I'm thankful for that. Any other comments, or would the board like to entertain a motion at this time?
I would move approval of staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, Director Madrone making the motion, Director Matthews seconding. I will take a roll call vote. Director Wilson? Yes. Director Katie? Director Matthews? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
Director Madrone?
Yes.
And Castellano votes yes. Motion passes unanimously. We will move on to our next item, which is board member reports. Do any members of the board wish to make a report at this time?
Yes, as soon as I shut this thing out. Sorry for that. But, last time we passed the approval of the joint powers amendment. So we're one step, at least through our end, moving towards that direction. Hopefully the other agencies, because there is a timeline that's critical. Your mic's not on. Is it on now?
Press the button on the bottom of the plate on the green light was on. I'm not sure, I wasn't hearing.
Is it on? Is it on? Okay. Is it is critical to get these things approved so we can come back without, and we did it without any additions or amendments to that. And that's all I had to report.
Yeah, and I'll report that the City of Arcata had our goal setting on Tuesday, and we definitely called out SB 1383, and we're making sure that we're dedicating a lot of time and effort to that this year.
And I just want to report that the City of Blue Lake has a Green Waste Days planned for the next 6 months. However, the March 4th Green Waste Day was postponed due to the inclement weather, snow, which is unusual in itself. But anyway, we're going to try to do it this Saturday, March 11th, for our first Green Waste Day of the year. Thank you.
I would just like to thank Caltrans for their incredible work with Clean California, working with all of our communities and the county and the tribes, and doing an amazing job of helping us gather up a lot of solid waste. It's really an amazing program. Julia Peterson there and others doing fantastic work. So just want to thank them for that. As far as our member organizations, thank you, Ria Dell, for passing your resolution, or I'm assuming it was a resolution? Resolution. Where are we at with that? Is it okay to ask where we're at with that process? Is everybody on board yet, or we're getting close, or?
So I can speak to it in my executive director's report
Okay,
if you'd like. Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you for that. Nothing else?
Great. Yeah, and And just in terms of the city of Eureka, we are moving forward with that. It still needs to come back to,
Okay.
I believe it's imminently coming back to council. Any other board member reports?
I guess I had one other question, if I might, Madam Chair. There were two sort of outliers, so to speak, Fortuna and Trinidad. Are they going to be coming into the fold in this process, or is that still ongoing discussions? I think Trinidad's very interested to come forward.
From what I've gathered, both entities are interested. We will continue to have those conversations. It will not be an overnight and easy thing. We will ensure that not only do they come in and feel comfortable coming in, but obviously the member agencies are comfortable with how they come back into the authority. But yeah, we definitely are working with both City of Fortuna and City of Trinidad staff to try and make that happen as best we can.
Well, I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they're not part of it, then certain fines, and I mean, they're going to have to create a system somehow or another, right? You're not free and clear of that. And it would seem joining the regional entity would be the wisest, most cost-effective thing to do for everybody, but appreciate your work on that, Eric. Thank you.
Okay, and we will close board member reports, move on to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Chair. So just to dovetail off of what both directors talked about with the JPA, that obviously was circulated to member agency staff. It's good to hear that that material has already gone to certain member agencies. I am on tap for speaking to City of Ferndale and the County of Humboldt, so I will be in attendance at both of the meetings where all of this JPA draft amendments are presented. I would obviously offer me to come to any of the other three that have not had the JPA amendments before their council as well, if you'd like. So I'm available for that. Either you can reach out to me or have member agency staff reach out, and I'd be more than happy to attend. But a little sector off of that, once the member agencies tacitly approve the language, it will come back before this board for final approval. After that is the final language, and there's no issues, no amendments, no changes by any of the member agencies. It will be approved by this board, amended, restated, and then a final document will be sent out to all member agencies to sign to ratify the JPA. So that's how that process is going to go, and it seems to be going pretty quickly. So that's good to hear. Additionally, as mentioned in the staff report about the Organics Grant Program, HWMA is working in concert with Egner and Associates to amend our current TPR. We are also working with the LEA. We anticipate having the TPR is the Transfer Processing Report. It's basically the guiding document for our operations at the Hawthorne Street Transfer Station and how we operate under our permit. We're working in concert with Egner and Associates to amend that, and we anticipate getting a draft package to the LEA early next week. So we are moving along on that process as well. Additionally, the audit, we anticipate the audit coming forward to this board next month. We understand that generally that is brought this month. We have had clearly some issues with staff turnover at the top, especially in the financial area. But we are working with an auditor that we have worked with in the past. We are additionally working with a consultant who is preparing the audit that we used last year as well. So I'm fairly confident that we will bring that before the board next month. And that is all for my executive director's report.
Thank you. Director Madrone.
So am I to understand that we, even as a county, have not done our JPA agreement yet? Is that correct? Or update?
I believe, don't quote me, but I believe it will be at the 21st. So on the meeting of the 21st. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, with that, it's a very fast meeting. It's been great to see everyone here in person, and please stay warm and dry out there. This meeting is adjourned.